survive the vagaries of this thing, the thuggish behavior these gukurahundi are still perpetuating on our people. Because constantly we are reminded where we are, that we don't belong actually. Every day, you and me, where did you come from? Where do you come from? When did you come? When are you going back? Where is this back? This back is where there are these vagaries are happening, where this thing that happened yesterday continues to happen in our people's daily lives. Now we are called to action. It's time our people begin to reinvigorate this thought process, these thought lines about the course of action that they should take as a people and redefine their identities. This is where I am saying there is a marked sense of representation that we see out of what happened yesterday.
I know, Siabon. Baba Spanda, Eliakim. Baba Span.
Okay. Sorry, Ben. Yeah.
Likon.
Mkhona.
Libona kanjani lina le ndaba le yoku bhijizwa kwe-stage leso yi-plaque le kade i-erectwe Ibhetshu LikaZulu.
Ngibona usigabade ngikhuluma into ejulileyo maqondana lokuthi nxa ulwisana lento isuka ibisisikhula empilweni zabantu. Engazama ukuthi ngikutsho ibhanaho indawo abaningi bethu esike saba kuyo esiyazi ukuthi iphile kanjani. Ngizayilandela ngicizelela lokho okuchiwo ngusigabade ngithi welo oqala ama feelings anjani maqondana lalokho kwenziwe. Of course ngibuhlungu ngibona inhlamba on top of ezinye inhlamba futhi ikanti-ke kuleyo nhlamba kukhona ubuhle lobo there's a bad side of it, kube lali side le ebona ngubaba. Then what is the way forward kulo? Ngizalethwa okukodwa engikubonayo kakhulu lapha okunye ngikubonayo ngabona okunye ngokusibulala esikhathini esiningi ukuthi kasitsho ngodumo lwethu silokho esikho khona ngendlela ebalulekileyo njalo egcina isaziwa ngumhlaba ngendlela obala. Lokho ngikutsho ngingacatshanga. Ngizama ukuthi kulezi nsuku siyakwazi ukuthi izinto lezi nxa zizakwaziwa kuhle kumele zincindezelwe phansi. Lokho sakufunda ngitsho lasekuqaliseni kukhulunywa ngonohanda lapha lo kaGubi bonke abananzelelayo bonke abantu laba benzwa baba popular ngo-Terrace Ranger. Ubhala ngebhuku wabhala ukuthi unohanda waqakatheka wathini, wahlanganisa njani abantu, and then ngaleyo ndlela inansinga leadership so-called leadership yabantu besishonini yancindezelwa yamemetheka. So engizama ukuthi ngikutsho ukuthi njengoba kade siyakhuluma ngokuthi sithi inasinga istone le ati symbolize udubo lalokho kwenzakalayo ukuthi I think okunye ukuqhakathekileyo ukuthi khathesi alubana siqoqa indaba ebantwini bakithi eziqamba amagama njengalokho ade kufuna ukwenziwa ilitshe leli, oziqamba amagama abantu bakithi abalahlekayo ngaleso sikhathi ngamagama, we name them. Sithi senze njalo futhi sibe lakho ukuthi siqalise ukuthi sithi thina distribute that information as far and wide as we possibly can. Ngizagcina ngalokho nxa sokusiya phambili. Ngiyakhumbula ngesikhathi igukurahundi and its operation ivele ngaziwa kangako, izaphu ikhunjulwa njengexuku elalivele lingenzi lutho. Isikhathi ngangimutsha eMelika, and nxa usiya emhlanganweni lemkhulu amaphepha ayepresentwa ngenationalism yeZimbabwe ukuthi kwenzakalani ukuthi kuzuzakale ukuze sizuze independence. Izanu yayinkalakade. Xa usuku uzama ukuthi ukhulume ngephepha elikhuluma ngezaphu wasuba inhlekisa. I remember kwesikhathi Leiden I was asked ngivakatshele khona as a visiting for a year. I was asked the question ukuthi why would you talk about izaphu which was a losing party? What lesson do we get from there? Konke lokho engikutshoyo ukuthi ekutheni kwethu kumele ukuthi siflade abantu nge-information yonke indawo. From that, ilesson engayifunda kulokho ukuthi ngithathe anything eqondana le 5th Brigade ngiyise kuma-library wonke engikwazi ukuthi bazawumukela. Lapho nxa ngifundisa ngikwazi ukuthi ngifake ibe part of my coursework. So khathesi siyakhuluma kumele ukuthi khathesi noba kukhona emaje engikutshoyo kasiqoqeni inhlupho zethu sizenze sibale ngazo sizenze nxa kusenzakala laphana kodwa ke kwaziwe lokuthi namhlanje bangaka abantu abakwazi ukuthi kube lelitshe elitshontshiwe ngaphandle kwethu.
Yeah, very few.
Yikho ngabona ngingakutsho kwakhathesi.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu. Information into important kakhulu. Ikakhulu abantu sisazi ukuthi bayakhula, bayaguga, bayafa. So singavele sicindezele phansi information right now noma sebehambile. Iyasala ikhona information. So siyabonga kakhulu. Bafowethu nodadewethu let me check ukuthi sinobani. Cornelius Moyo kukhona ongabuthanda ukusho babu Paul.
Sanibonani Mahlabezulu ninjani?
Siyaphila baba.
Ngethemba nobusuku obuhle oneminenhle kuzo zonke indaweni kuzo. Hayi cha mina ngisafufuza so ngilanda ukuthatha ulwazi isikhathi nesiningi sese indechane. Bathi umfowethu uhlala usamila. So khona kube izindaba ezibhlungu ngikuzwe izolo from uzenzele ebehambile from ekuqaleni bevinjwa ngamapolisa. I was following the program as it was going on Facebook and on Twitter until he reported the following day ukuthi leyanto ebesi sayibeka seyisuke yaphucwa njalo, of which uhlabangani ubaba usigabade laphana ukhulume into emqoka kakhulu ukuthi lento esenhlizweni zethu nathi mina ngizalwe ngesikhathi isiphela, of which I was born in 1986. But ubuhlungu ngiyabuzwa, you understand? So that thing, it will always be there until it is resolved.
Udaba olunzima lolesibhekane nalo njengesizwe solulimaza abantu kakhulu psychologically and physically and economically, and lubukeka kuludaba olusazoqhubeka futhi lulimaza abantu. Upresident weZimbabwe ubethe yena akukhulunywe ngalo lolu daba lolu kungesatshwa. Angithi siyakhumbula ukuthi nje ngesikhathi lwenzakele vele nje kwakungavunyelwa nje ukuthi njalo bakhulume ngalo nje. Sasisesaba kakhulu nje vele nje ukuthi kukhulunywe ngalo lolu daba. Nangu ke lo upresident omutsha uthi yena akukhulunywe ngalo lolu daba. Njalo kwabonakala futhi esiya eMatabeleland siyahlangana nabantu kuthiwa iMatabeleland collective. Bazama ukuthi kuthiwa luyalungisiswa lolu daba lolu. Ngingazi ukuthi uma kusenzakala into ezinjengalezi ukuthi alright siyazama ukuthi simemorize okwenzakalayo, kodwa ke kube nabantu abahamba ngemva bebhidliza lokho esikuzamayo. So kusho ukuthi kungaba neconnection entweni ekhulunywa ngumongameli nezenzo zabantu noma ukuhamba kanjani. Uyibona kanjani baba Sikabani?
Weyane kule sitho esithi sona, until the lion tells the side of their story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Until the people of Matabeleland begin to be confident enough to stand out there, tell the world their own story. Professor Swanda. Until our people are able to tell their own story with their own narrative, with their own narrative, the narratives that they own. The tale of Zimbabwe, the story of Zimbabwe will always glorify the perpetrators of this heinous crime, gukurahundi genocide. You and me have witnessed this thing, and we have also heard the same gukurahundist, the chief architect of it. If you look for his equivalent in the case of the Holocaust, he is either Adolf Eichmann or Heinrich Himmler or some of those generals that were there. He then comes to you, the victim, and says, he did not say, by the way, let's talk about this thing. No, he didn't. Okay. He said, let us debate this thing. Now, you see, that's where the insult is. Someone came to your home, raped your mom, raped your siblings, killed your father, maimed your entire village, and someone, that person who did all these things, was actually part of this thing that I call the banality of evil, because everyone who had a role they were playing in the fulfillment of this whole structure, the bigger structure of evil, for it to actually grind and continue to grind us. And then here is this person who was actually superintending this structure, coming to you to say, look, we raped your people, we killed your people, we maimed your villages, we did all this, we pillaged. But let's debate about that. That's an insult. In fact, we must not even entertain the idea of debating. How do you debate the death of your father, the rape of your mom?
Yeah.
The fact that my sister was 6 months pregnant and soldiers betted $5, $2 each. Oguti, the fetus in there, in her womb, after, by the way, having raped her several times until she bled. They betted, and then they came. And after betting, they decided to rip her open because they had argued that the fetus in her womb was, of course, that of a dissident child who is male, the other group saying, no, it's female. And then they decided to waste life to that extent by opening her womb. After you and me, you see, when you are a child, one of the things that a child, what we call the innocence of a child, one of the things that a child must always celebrate, Wayan. You see, a child must enjoy the innocence. This innocence that I'm talking about is the belief that my father is invincible, my mother is invincible. My father can do anything for me. My father can even buy me an aeroplane. But you and me were made to throw away our innocence at a very young age. When we saw our own parents, our own fathers, our siblings, our elders being brutalized to the extent of them asking for mercy right before our eyes. You see, when you see your father being brutalized like that, Wayan, you cease to be actually innocent as a child, because you begin to Imagine how best can you even try to save your own family at the age of 6, 7. And then here is this monster who superintended this system coming to you to say, look, let's debate it. That is where the problem is. And that's why I personally had a problem with anyone from this so-called Matabeleland collective who decided to actually partake in this nonsense. Because I understood the implications of the insult. Not only the implications, I understood the piercing of the inside of this insult directly into my heart. This painful knife that they were thrusting, already having killed my father. I understood what it meant. So, as a people, Woyane, Prof. Uspanda ekulumile, I think we are at this stage where we must tell our story. We must not wait for some monster sitting somewhere, the same perpetrator of gukurahundi, to come and tell us, you and me, that now is the time that you should talk. Now is the time that you should tell your story. Why should I be told by the same rapist that it is time that I should tell my story? You see, this reminds me of a time when Malcolm X was fighting in America in the civil rights movement, period, and someone accuses him of spreading hate language. And he said, no, look, by telling my own people, by telling my people that it is time they stand up, it is time they talk about their suffering and do so with pride if they can, so that they can rise up. To me, I call that love. I call that the opposite of hate story. And I think we are at that stage where our people must understand that, you see, for a long time when we grew up, I'm sure you have noticed it, when we grew up in the villages, people could talk about anything else so openly. The moment the issue of gukurahundi is talked about, the subject is touched. The moment the subject is touched, we will begin to have what we call silent, loud conversations, where our people will begin to whisper, where our people will begin to even distrust, mistrust the people around them, because they're already talking about gukurahundi. That's how indelible the mark of gukurahundi has been in our hearts and minds. And I think it's time we liberate ourselves. You see, the more we talk about it, the more we engage about this narrative of gukurahundi, the more we liberate ourselves. I am not talking about forgiving and forgiveness, because we are not yet there. But I'm saying we have so much pain in our hearts, which has caused us to find ourselves operating at the zone of conspiracy theories. And it is time that we come out of those zones of conspiracy theories and the zone of silent, loud conversations of gukurahundi to begin to openly talk about this. Let the world know about what is happening.
Kunabantu abathi njengabantu beMatabeleland angabantu abasafa i-genocide. The best way of liberating ourselves ukuthi sixolele laba bantu okuyibo abasonayo. Wena uyithini leyo? Njalo bathi maybe uma labana abantu bengabuya bexolise siyabaxolela nje kanjalo. Uyibona kanjani le narrative enjalo?
No, we can't do that way. We can't find ourselves in this. We have been put in a pitiful situation to the extent that we even are begging the same person who has abused us to come and apologize so that we quickly forgive them. We quickly forgive them. That, to me, Woyane, is the greatest scandal that human beings can ever commit. It is the greatest scandal humanity can ever commit. You cannot actually find yourselves at that stage. In fact, I've heard this. I've had to even ask some people who have said it over and over that, no, look, we want these people to come and apologize. And I've asked them, so that what happens? If they come and apologize, so that what happens? And then others have said, so that we move forward. And I've asked them, Who has stopped you from moving forward? If you are at that moment's notice, you are prepared to just forgive. If you are that prepared to forgive, what has stopped you from moving forward? But the truth is, what has stopped us from moving forward, Wayan, is not just this forgiveness, this empty forgiveness. It is the very fact that this thing that happened deprived us of so many things, including our humanity. Remember, gukurahundi, as I have said earlier on, happened and it did not stop there. It has continued to the extent of pushing you and me out of the country. We are where we are because of gukurahundi. We were denied opportunities. I taught at NAST for years. I saw how the structures that had been put in place were designed to actually ensure that the people of Matabeleland are literally removed from the broader equation of the nationalist project. I've seen that. I've seen that happening. And I am saying, if the people of Matabeleland want to re-narrate, talk about the narrative of gukurahundi, they must do so outside the prism of Zimbabwe, the structure of Zimbabwe. They must begin to imagine themselves as the people of Matabeleland were being brutalized for nothing other than the fact that they are from Matabeleland, they are Ndebele first. Then from there, they imagine an emancipatory project that will ensure that if they still wish to be part of Zimbabwe, whatever solution will come out, peace issues and forgiveness being part of them will be part of this broader project, but let it be a developmental project. Remember, gukurahundi took more than a decade. It literally it stretched more than a decade. Remember, gukurahundi stretched from, let us be frank with statistics and data. Gukurahundi started, I'm saying, remember, gukurahundi stretched for more than a decade. And if we are to be honest with ourselves, gukurahundi did not start in 1983. It was before 1983.
Okay.
Gukurahundi started you see, in Gagao, when the zebra cutters were killed, were brutally murdered for being Ndebele. That itself was gukurahundi. I had the opportunity of interviewing some of the Zanla generals. I'm talking about ZANU's Secretary General Edgar Tekere. I interviewed him. I interviewed Wilfred Manda, popularly known as Zinashe Machingura. I interviewed Hamaziripi. I interviewed the former, what was his name? This general who was in charge of the Air Force before Parents Chiri. I interviewed him. He is late. I interviewed that man. I interviewed Professor Kenan Sodindo Banana about this whole thing when I was teaching, when I was a student at UZ and also teaching at NAST. The common denominator in all their conversations was that this was a planned thing which had to be put into practice before Zimbabwe became so-called independent. One, through the Mgagao thing, and Professor Kenan Sodindo Banana told me something which really shocked me, and I went on to even ask him, how then did you continue to work with these people? He told me of a situation, of a story, one day when they were coming from Geneva, a Geneva convention, I think. He was sitting with one of these ZANU Shona nationalists. I think it must be Nyandoro. He says they were sitting, they were in the plane flying back, and this guy says to him, because you see, he used the name Banana, the surname Banana. They didn't know he was a Vundla. So this guy says to him, you see, Banana, when we are done with these settlers, the white settlers, we still have another lot of people to deal with. And Banana says, and who might this be? He says, these Ndebele people, these settlers, we must deal with them. That is where gukurahundi is located. That is where gukurahundi is located. So now, imagine the denial of your humanity from that period up to today. And you are still prepared to say, you just want to sit down and talk with this abuser without putting in place, don't you think it's important to quantize this suffering? So that then when you sit down and say, let's talk about this, then you can say, we have lost this, we need reparations. Don't you think we need to have a conversation about reparations? I think we do. I think it's time our people understand that the conversation about reparations, quantumized narrative of the impact of gukurahundi on us. I think it's time our people understand that that is actually far much more important than simply going to Mnangagwa and prostrating yourselves before him and then say, oh, hello, President, come over here, let's talk. I don't believe in that. And I think that actually is an insult. So this is where our people should find themselves. They should begin to talk about reparations as a developmental issue because we lost. We lost so much. Imagine Zimbabwe was developing from 1980 at a time when you and me were running and hiding in the mountains. For those 10 years, I personally was out of school from 1983. We went back to school in 1986. Imagine what I lost. Imagine how many people lost those opportunities. Each time I visit my village, I see the graves of the people who were brutally murdered. And when they are the first to greet me when I drive into my village, and it's as if they're asking me, whatever happened to those people that brutally murdered us? And you are telling me I should just call them to the table of so-called brotherhood or sisterhood and sit with them and say, forgiveness. What forgiveness, Oyane? I won't do that. I don't believe in that.
Yes, right. The forgiveness, just like that, Baba Span, Masulu Bega Lulu Daba Lulu. Singakubiza sithi way forward. Nokuthi in terms of its resolution. Ubone ngathi wena kumele kwenziwe yena ukuthi lo resolve lolu daba lolu gukurahundi lo.
I think okuningi sibili usigabade ukuqambile. Ukukhuluma ikakhulu nje ekubeke ngendlela sibile enzima wasipha lo mfanekiso ukuthi nxa umuntu enze lokho nxa umuntu enze lokho. Ezithi izikhathesi into esihluphayo ukuthi bonabo abonayo ibo bafuna ukufaka ama-terms ukuthi kuqondiswe njani. Kanti-ke thina kusaswela ukuthi kube yithi esikhuluma ngodaba lwethu lubanjwe ngendlela esizwisisayo. Nxa ngifaka really in practical terms, silabantwana abangaya esikolo khathesi because they can't get ama-birth certificate. Abazake bazuza ama-birth certificate ngoba abazali babo abakho, so they cannot produce ama-death certificates. Yonke leyo yaba impumela ye-5th brigade. So nxa sikhuluma ngezinto okuningi kwakhona, nxa sikhuluma ngolwethu udaba sihlaba umkhosi okwenzela ukuthi abangapho labazwayo balalele ukuthi udubo lwethu kuyini. Ngabona khathesi nxa kuvele njengoba kukhulunywa ukwatshenye into usigabati lapho wathi yena isikhathi esiningi nxa sikhuluma ngalo sithi ludubo lweZimbabwe. Ke lona ludubo sibili olukhulu lamaThebeleland. Ngubani olucasisayo kwabangaphandle laba abantwini ukuthi bazi ukuthi kwenzakalani ebantwaneni bethu ebazukulweni bethu njengoba kuchilo lapha ngikhala ukuthi abantu bayaphila njalo bayedlula. So okuqale ngatsho ukuthi njengoba bebefaka nje khathesi ilitshe lelade lamabizo litshontshiweyo ngenye indlela yokuthi ebantwini bonane nantudubo esilalo. Kodwa ke enye into eqhakathekileyo ngabona ukuthi thina ngokwethu sitsho olwethu udaba kuyini. Sibhale nxa usemachechi akho ukhuluma echechi, nxa usezikolo ukhuluma usezikolo, kuyo lonke indawo lapho ongakhuluma khona ebantwini bezwe ukuthi udubo kuyini. Uhulumende I think lanxa ekhaya okungaqinisa ukuthi mhlawumbe Ibhetshu LikaZulu liyazama sibili ukuthi kwesinye ezenzakalayo. I think uMnangagwa kumelanga simphe ukuthula. He was the minister ye state responsible for ama instruments wonke la ama-apparatus wonke la abulala abantu, or whether it's a CIO, he was security. So la nxa singazange sitsho noma sisitsho lokhu ukuthi sithi yena what was his role, ukuthi simbuze ukuthi wena ngokwakho what was your role as a Minister of State in the President's office ngesikhathi abantu bebulawa, what was his role? But we shy away from that. So izinto eziningi, information ngaze ke ngiphinde ngiyenze ukuthi ngehlele ukuncindezela kulokho, ngoba kade sasithi thina umntwana ongakhali ufele embelekweni. Ngabuza umbuzo lapho ukuthi yebo kambe ilitshe lelo ade liyisikhumbuzo kulamabizo ukuthi lintshontshombani okwazi. For the first time ngizwe sengibala lokho ukuthi kade for the first time ukuthi ngokwesibili lokho. Ikanti ke so ngabona into eqhakathekile ngiphinde ngikhulume ngalamkhawulo ukuthi information nxa sizuza ithuba lokuthi sithole udaba lapha abantu engxanye asibephana amabizo abantu laba ababulawa ngesikhathi se-5th Brigade. Asiphena amabizo ebantwaneni laba abahluphekileyo. Ngizagcina ngalokho ngokwalesi sikhathi. Ngeke ngaba kwenye i-committee which I'm still under under i-nursing ICC, International Court. Ngathi kukhulunywa ola nganyama ojaji ababiwa vele South Africa. Kwamkhulu I think ngaleso sikhathi kwangumama wevele Uganda ngesikhathi senasinga. Kuyakhulunywa so sesikhuluma nganasinga. Omunye uthi kimi, oh, can you quantify ungabuya lama numbers, can you give us names? What is the impact? Sitshele ukuthi khona what is the impact? Kuthi wena hayi kulobuzima bokuthi uzuze i-information. But no, yikho lapha engezwa khona nge-international i-Oxfam report ekaMarch 2 which was embargoed. Ukuthi leSengland ngabona kungamele ukuthi lizama ukuyidinga because le ilamabizo abantu ababulawa lama places. So umgabe wathi isi-produce okwathenjiswa ukuthi izagcinwa i-embargiwe because of what was happening there. Isikhathi kade sesifikile sedlule. So i-information ngala iqhakathekile labo bonke esikhona khona lapha. Ukudlela khwaphena kuncede okwakhathesi. Lokuthi umuntu bazasitshelela khona sikhuphena amabizo, asiqoqeni amabizo abantu abedluleyo sibe lawo sitsho lodubo lethu kube yithi esikhuluma ngalo.
Hayi kakhulu. Mfowethu owebhetshu mbona usungenile. Ngusibani? Sephumile futhi. Hayi sekwehlulile. Ube sekhona but sebuye waphuma. Hayi baba sibalikhulu ngeke ngabona uphakamisa isandla uthebe kuyi mistake. Mlangeni.
Yebo baba, bekuyi mistake baba. I was trying to fix up my gadget. Sorry.
But uma unakho ngabe ufisa ukuphawula ungaphawula baba.
Hayi akukho kutheni bakhulumile abahlonishwa asibekhulumile baba. Lento eshiwo ubaba uSigabade yokuthi sizifosela ukuba into ethile yethi abantu besitshela ukuthi asisiyiyo leyo.
Ngicela ukubamba kancane baba Mlangeni ngizobuya ngibuye kuwe.
Yebo.
Mfowethu webhetshu LikaZulu. Ngusibani?
Baba. Yebo baba ngiyakuzwa baba.
Awu kuhle baba. Ilokuzeni alright. I-network yakusuka.
Yeah, no, it's actually a familiar situation. Every time we get cut off when we are supposed to contribute to these events.
Okay. Mfuna ukuthi ngazi kahle ngubaba ngu-Gifford Sibanda.
Yeah, uGifford Sibanda, yes.
Okay. So nguwe information kunhlangano yeBhetshu LikaZulu.
Yebo baba.
Siyabonga kakhulu ukhuluma noThulani lana we Matabeleland Broadcasting Corporation. Noma nje isikhathi sesiphelile baba kodwa ke sokunikeza imzuzu emncane ukuthi uke nje usithi kancane sibonile laphana ilokhuzana ilitshe ebelifakiwe laphana eBhalagwe labuya futhi lantshontsho.
Yebo.
Lithole information bani ngokutshontsho kwalo?
For now, what we can actually reveal or what we can share with the world, ukuthi mhla ka-25 safika ema-piece around 8 with the intention yokuthi silakhele ilitshe, then kwenziwe i-unveiling ngo-12. Samiswa ngamapholisa esala ukuthi sihambe siye kwakhela ilitshe bese sithi bafuna i-clearance ukuthi sikhulume le-regulating authority elweni odwa ukuthi sikwanise ukuyawakhelisa. Sasisala sathina ngeke sikwanise ukuthi sibuyele koBulawayo. Sibuyele emzini yethu ezakhamizi ezaseduze lezinduna ezasezifikile ubaba uMathema lo baba uFuyana. Sathi ngeke thina sicela imvumo yokuthi emapholiseni athinteka ekubulaweni kwabantu bakithi ukuthi sikwanise ukuthi siye khumbula abantu bakithi ababulawa abajikelwe emgodini alababulawa eBhalagwe camp and all other areas ku 3 regions ezeMat North, leMat South, leMat North. Sahlala for 4 hours sikhuluma namapholisa kuseba nxa besivumele ukuthi sidlule ngoba sebonile ngeke asivume. Sathi senza i-event, sakhela event. 2 things actually happened. Sithe sesakhela lilani litshe abadala sebesukile kwasokusiba khona amapholisa okufuze ukuthi abantu asilinde siqede leyo event. Bakhanya sebengabantu abaphitheka ngokuthi bafuna ukuthi bahambe basuke kulokhuzeni kusite esasisakhela khona. Sathi ngeke selimise mase lifuna ukuthi lihambe, bathi nxa lisuka khona lapho liqeda ukasicela lisitshele ukuthi selisukile seliqedile ukwakha nxa lingazange liphobwe kungaba lento eliphambanisayo lisitshele. Sakha saqeda sesiqeda ukwakha sathina nje amapholisa la kungabantu ade vele besilisa ababesiya koBulawayo basebesiya koBulawayo ababesala beyizakhamizi basebesala. Kodwa after about an hour sisukile kwaba lama-phone calls angena kwabanye abantu ababekhona bebuza amapholisa ukuthi selisukile yini. Sithe sithi sesisukile sasuka, then early in the morning sathola information yokuthi litshe selidiliziwe. So thina ekusixabangisayo ukuthi nje abantu laba besisala ukuthi sihambe siye kwakhela leli litshe bemele uhulumende weZimbabwe kwaba njalo kuyibo futhi abasibuzayo ukuthi esisukile. So yibo ama-first suspects ethu only 2 arms olabantu be-president's office kulamapholisa we-peace olamapholisa e-uniform. So these are the 3 suspects that we hold esikhona ukuthi yibo abaphatheke kudilizeni litshe lethu esasilakhele. And this is not the first time likhona idilizi futhi ngo-2018 after about 5 or 8 days lakhiwe leli batshe balidilize ebusuku balitshontsha. So kasikwazi ukuthi balisenga kodwa silethemba lokuthi siyakwazi we convinced ukuthi nguhulumende ophatheke kudilizeni leli njengoba engafuni vele ukuthi lakhiwe libe khona.
Bengisathi siyabona kakhulu ukuthi iBhetshu LikaZulu le ndaba yegukurahundi ayiliphezulu kwayo liyayisebenza impela. Selinesikhathi eside lilandelela lisebenza le ndaba yegukurahundi. Lina-ke ngokubona kwenu indaba zokufaka into ezifana nama-plaques njenganale yade liyifakile leyo libone ngathi kungasiza kanjani ebantwini kakhulu okuyibo abangama-victims of igukurahundi?
Esikubonayo ukuthi uhulumende akwenzayo, there are number of basically into ayiza uhulumende ukuthi ufuna ukudelete imemory. Akafuni ukuthi abantu bakhulu. There are 2 generations now ama-direct victims and labantu abawitnessayo igukurahundi. Those are the people that were 3, 4, 5, 10 years old bebulawelwa abazali babo, bebulawelwa izihlobo zabo besise emkhonyeni. Abantu ababulawelwa abazali babo batshelwa igukurahundi kuthiwa maledinga abanye abazali abenu sesilibudele. So that is the generation around their 40s and 50s that the government wants them to die. Ukuthi nxa bengafa abusela umuntu ongaba le direct information about what really happened, those that were witnesses, because ama-direct victims amaningi asefile because of old age langenhlungu ezokubulawa, ezokuchaywa, and the general abuse and general badness of economy ngendlela abantu ababuswa ngayo. So abakufisayo ukuthi memory be deleted. That is the reason why nxa sifaka ama-plaques because ama-plaques will stay longer even lapho sisifile nxa ekhangeliwe, so that people will always remember ukuthi kwaba le dark part of our history. Abantu babulawa, abamama badlwengulwa, abantu bachaywa for belonging to a certain tribe. That is a fundamental thing. For being Ndebele, people killed for being Ndebele. Abantu baba misconception ukuthi it was because of a certain belonging to a certain political party. But if it was belonging to a certain political party, why abantu ababesuka kwake region belong to the village bengazange babulawe? EUrungo why bengazange babulawe as much as Matabeleland ndawo babulawe imiklenzi lemali babulawa amandebele. For belong to a certain tribe. So the government wants to do that. So ama-plaque sethu, we make it clear every other day ukuthi the government of Zimbabwe remains responsible for killing abantu beZimbabwe, for killing abantu citizens, peace-loving, unarmed, defenseless, abantu ebabulala. So we make that particular thing put on record, so that memory leka ingapheli. So because we are convinced now ama-circumstances akhona ukuthi uhulumende lowo lacks political will to solve gukurahundi, like genocide, to find a solution to it. So even if we fail in our lifetime, but the future generations must be able to know. You will recall, you will understand what even our Germans now, as long as part of that particular Hitler killing machinery, ahamba a trial, ahamba a court, even at 8, at 9, at whatever years. We don't want our people to forget. We don't want people to forget. We want justice. Imagine a case one. Last other week, we spent the entire week visiting our sites in under Chief Tatekul. You'll see, will know, every school has got a mass grave. Every borehole has got a mass grave in that particular area. People were killed. So the government wants to eliminate memory. So it was saying people must remember, people must see these things. So that justice will be delivered, because the government is responsible. Whatever government that comes to Zimbabwe, you must, because if the brigade was paid by the government of Zimbabwe, well, they've got the payroll, they know the deployment program, buyers, schedules of those that went, the entire brigade, the entire CIO of that particular day, the peace department, police. That's why I was saying, apart from this, also I'm saying we can't ask him for police clearance. Because the police are apart. So we can't go on and ask him. We can't go and ask you we told you we inspector that the government, the uniform that you are putting on is of a government and is of the force that killed our people. We can't ask authority from it to mourn the people because you represent the system of the murderers. We can't.
Vele ngicabanga ukuthi kati ngesikhathi lilifake ilitshe leliyana belinga anticipateanga ukuthi vele bazokwenza njalo ukuthi belilokhozi.
We told them on their faces that last time we put this stone last Chonja. And we are putting this one, this lindile, and we know we are going to do it. Even if we're going to stay for a night, as other people say, we are for a night for 2 days. After it has stayed for 8 days. So they're still going to destroy it. They're still going to destroy it. We knew that. But we're not going to tire from doing good. We're going to do good. We're going to do those plaques again. They will destroy, but we're going to put them on. That is the reason it puts actually in the limelight the insincerity, the hypocrisy of Emerson Mnangagwa, who says, talk about, they were chiefs. Chief Fuyana actually spoke and said, this is basically a national monument, ama police to make sure that it is not stolen. And they make sure that it is stolen. One. Secondly, something that Chief Fuyana also spoke about. You know, it has now been declared a provincial heroes acre. And it's actually said for the chief and for the community and for the entire progressive Zimbabweans. Because it came and then we are saying it is a heroes acre. Mass graves, shallow graves around Palaku. untold of my people are buried there. Then you're saying this place is not heroes. Heroes is defined by Zan, as defined by gukurahundi, yeah, as defined by genocidist. Putting my heroes, yeah, balali konapana, and want people to go and celebrate heroism where their own relatives are dying, yeah, and closer to that particular area is a cultural area in the Utsolo Koni Zulu, and then you insult people further in that particular way. Yeah, issues of double standards, hypocrisy, contempt of the local people by the present government of this particular state.
Yeah. Okay. Benginembuzo eminingi kakhulu for Ibhetshu LikaZulu kodwa ke hayi isikhathi sesinganithwasa sidle umango. Ngizocela ukuthi ebantwini abakhona khona lana ku platform namhlanje uma benombuzo noma benokunye abathanda ukuphawula kulokho sokukhulunywe ngubaba uSibanda weBhetshu LikaZulu ngiyabanikeza isikhashana nje ukuthi sixoxa kancane then sivale.
Oyane if ukhona yini umfowethu weBhetshu lo kakahambi?
Hayi ukhona
yeah Sibanda mehlo madala mfowethu mina ngisebenze kakhulu lo qhubekani ube ngumna wami yes ungakhuluma lo ufuzwayo ngumna wami la uza kutshela okunengi sivela khatshana. There are a few things yebo phela kulento nje bengifuna ukuthi ngiyibuze. Uyabona ukuthi Sibanda kunjani?
Yeah.
Ungathi wena empilweni yakho ulanda umuntu sithi ndoda ngibulewe indlala bengicela unike isinkwa kodwa lokho umuntu lo akunciche leso sinkwa. You know what you need to do as a person. You must refuse to actually even buy a morsel of isinkwa sakhe, a loaf of isinkwa sakhe, a morsel of it. It's time you begin as an individual to demand the space for you to actually build your own confectionery. What am I saying here? We are one into Balakwe. I knew they were going to steal ilogos Indiana. You remember by Choncha, I think I talk I knew they were going to steal it. In fact, I expected that they were going to do it. I'm not surprised they did it. In fact, they were so late because the reason why is because they wanted to steal it. What are we supposed to do after this? How about if we found a space where we will actually this time around pull together my resources? I'm prepared to contribute. Second, a very big, you see, we are one heroes.
Yeah.
That place was not a sacred place. They made it a sacred place. Sacred places are constructed by their very nature. About statues now. Sacred places are constructed and given meaning, and they carry symbolism going forward. How about if we found our own space? Second, we are one a memorial. See our cases as far as the tomb of the unknown victim. We are using to show. As thing any a space where we will actually said to secret. Sake the tomb of the Sake a very big memorial that will stand so tall, and its height will be a reminder of the extent of which of course representing also of underneath there the tomb of the unknown victim. Heroes the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Yeah.
Now we will put the tomb of the unknown victim. The tomb of the unknown victim is a symbol of all the victims.
Yeah, sure.
The second thing, I think Professor Sibanda lapha, and ngiyabona ukuthi angazi ube wena uyizwisisile, but the idea of giving names to our victims. You see, weyane imbuzi nxa ifile kuthiwa imbuzi, inkomo nxa ifile inkomo ayila lokuzeni because ayila soul. But if a victim of a genocide is given a name, you are not only immortalizing them, you are also humanizing them. You are even participating in the process of reenacting, exhuming them and reburying them, giving them a proper resting place. It's so important symbolism there. And I think it's important ukuthi into nalesiyenze asibhodeni sithola amagama abantu uqambe isigaba sami Sibanda esikathathe induna laphana ngumna wami uqambe isigaba sami. I know what we are talking about. I know izindawo oziqambayo ukuthi every place ohamba kiyo isibholane ohamba kiso kule maestri. Asihambeni siye ezigabeni sifike sikhulumeni labantu ukuthi kumasgrave la kulabo bani sibhaleni amabizo lana abantu labana as uProfessor Sibanda said it. Let's give them names. Let us asivuseleleni impilo zabo lobuntu bethu lenkumbulo yethu ukuthi sibe bazi ngoba yiyo kuthiwa imemory. They will never delete it. For as long as saphila, they will never delete it. Singakwenza khonoko. But kulento tomb of the unknown victim, the erection of a big structure. If we can do that,
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. Nyamuzi Babu Skabati he has actually put really a very brilliant point. And if you look at Plaque I'm seeing it was actually starting point. It actually captured that particular. We're trying to put out the plaque that covers these regions and the unknown victims, and without mentioning them, but also is putting one. We need to put our records, and it's very important. Records because as you saw, as Plaque is actually names. So So as you are saying, we need to put resources together as a people, as victims, as the progressive Zimbabweans or victims. What is one is to do these particular things. Just we value his support. He has been actually with us for quite some time. So we're taking that particular point on board. We're subtracting nothing is actually the things that we need to hear and these that we need to action.
Okay, I know. Kuhle kakhulu. Bengabe bekhona abanye abangabe bethanda ukukhomenta noma ukubuza kubaba uSibanda. Noma ukubuza kade ukhulunywa nguSigabati.
Ningabuza.
Just a second. Bengicela ukuthi uSibanda sorry Prof ungangeni. Sibanda Ibhetshu Sibanda give on. Will tell you are taking everything and you are not subtracting anything. Bengicela subtract one thing. Ngasuka kudala uzibona njengomZimbabwean. I have never seen myself as a Zimbabwean. I'm not. I am a victim of Zimbabwe, conscious of it. So subtract the local. Zimbabwean. Ngumthwakazi mfowethu. Futhi ngizaqhubeka ngicontributor ku cause yenu njengomthwakazi. iZimbabwe vele angifunda kuyibona nyayenyanya. Uzangixolela sorry
lingangena baba Prof Sibanda.
Mina ndaweni well ngigcizelele kuloko okunye kwakho ukuthi mhlawumbe like lakhumbula ngomnqondo ukuthi okunye lithi go virtual. Sithi njengoba njade lifake ilitshe lesikhumbuzo alubana kuhle kwathethwa kwa video tape lenze igallery virtual ngaleyo ndlela ayibi khonapho kuphela kodwa ke izamemetheka kuthi labantu abangekho khona bayibone la nxa bedilizela ukukhana babe bekudilizile kodwa silayo ku virtual space abangazake bayithinte khona ngaleyo ndlela la nxa bethi bayakhangela la ngomsebenzi weBhetshu kuba khona ukuthi khona ku site ethize lapho okungenzakala ukuthi ke abantu bazi ukuthi kuyini okwenzakalayo.
Yes, we try every other time Basilama events to put them in real time in our Twitter account. we do have a website, but it's still being perfected. Ibhetshu LikaZulu.org. Then we're available on Twitter as @LikaZulu. Then on Facebook we're available as Ibhetshu LikaZulu. So we try to do those things so that we can be able to document these things as they happen in real time. So I say contribution is very important also to Siyabonga.
Okay, siyabonga. Bakhona abanye abangabe befisa ukuthi be contribute before silugqiba. Okay, Baba Sibanda, Gifford, lina njengebhetshu likaZulu, emphakathini wakithi eMatabeleland, libone ngani ungaphathisa kanjani emsebenzini yenu eliyenzayo?
Umphakathi uthi ungaphathisa kanjani?
Yeah.
Alright. See, organization exists within communities, exists within people. We value material support, we value information support. Only at the colonial, we need to identify the victims and sites, and because it's still being part of our research and academic research about how did basically gukurahundi operate, and we also abantu influence even those that are in diaspora. There's an issue that is being debated right now within our structures and within the communities. How can we be able to take the issue litigation even internationally? It has not yet been tried. It has not been taken ICC and so forth, and even within the African continent. If as we seem to be facing, our frustrations are having done locally. So we're taking every view, we're taking every other contribution materially, intellectually, and practical support that we're able to get in. Our doors are open for any form of assistance that is deemed necessary progressively towards the solution of genocide in Zimbabwe.
Okay, maybe ma unganikeza abantu ama contact details ukuthi abantu mabe ngabe befisa ukuthi besize bengalithola kuphi?
I can give them ama contacts ka Fuzwayo, Secretary General webhetshu, Secretary General webhetshu, is local number yakhe 0772 982 998. 0772 982 998.
Okay. Hayi no kuhle ngithemba ukuthi abantu bayithethe bazodlalela futhi babuye beyibhale phansi. Hayi kuhle siyaxolisa ukuthi i-network isenzele ezinye izinto lana, kodwa ke hayi sibonga kakhulu ubaba uSigabade nobaba uSibanda uEliakim. Kube kuhle kakhulu ukuthi sixoxisane information esesiyitholile inhle kakhulu. Awu baba Sibalukhulu, mbone ngathi uphakamise isandla ufuna uku contribute. Yeah.
Yebo baba.
Ungangena baba.
Ubaba uprofessor ukhulume into ebalulekile. Engicabanga ukuthi mina njengabantu enizintatheli beningasiza kakhulu ekuthinini kubhalwe phansi lezi zinto, nanokuthi ke kulandelelwe kakhulu abane wethu nabo baba laba basakhona ababe sempini abahamba baya ngaphandle kwelizwe bayolwa, ngoba phela wonke umuntu wayekhona ngalesi sikhathi. Ngikholwa ukuthi waye besempini ngoba nabafanyana babekwazi ukusiza ngokuthi bagijimise ilizwi ukuthi bakhona laphayana, mase kuphekwe bagijimise ukudla futhi. Kodwa ngisho labo ke amadoda ayephethe induku akalandelelwe asho izehlakalo ababehlangabezana nazo ukuze sibe nezindawo ungabhekisa emazweni asentshonalanga wona la nakulo lena leli lizwe lingakakhululeki uzothola ukuthi lento ebikhulunywa bakusigabade ekuqaleni yezithombe ezimisiwe ama-monuments lawa ya. Those people were honoring their people who fought their wars. And ungabheka nala, those people, they are being honored. Kubhalwa ukuthi walwe endaweni nje waholi ibutho elithile ngempi eso. Now, ngizama ukusho ukuthi nathi ezindaweni zona leziyana zakithi akube khona izithombe eziyomiswa ukuthi la kwasala amabutho enkululeko osibanibani behlangene neqembu elithile elombuso abamhlophe kwaliwa ngosuku oluthile. Kubalulekile lokho yinto uhulumeni yena lo aku-undermine kakhulu kwangathi izwe labuya nje kanti izwe libuye ngegazi labantu. Kunabantu abasalayo, kunabantu abafayo, kunabantu abalimala. So ngicabanga ukuthi it's important yona leyanto ukuthi kumiswe lezo zithombe lezo ezindaweni. Lest we forget.
Yeah.
Nanokuthi sibalandelele bona laba ababesempini sizwe ngabo ukuze nakusasa kwazeke kube on record ngoba phela manje sizwa ihistory yezano engelo liqiniso. Ungakhuluma nabantu abasha manje bazokutshela ukuthi niyapapha nina ningamagwala ninonya wathi nithi kwadlula lokhuyana because they don't know what really happened. Kanti masizokuzwa lokho kuphuma from the horse's mouth kuzosiza kakhulu lokho. Ngiyabonga.
Esisala kakhulu mbone ngento lolu luhlelo oluqakatheke kakhulu ukuthi luyadinga ukuthi futhi ngenye imini sibuye futhi sihlale phansi sibe sixoxe ngalo. Maybe siyabe sesilulanda from a different angle. Kodwa ke sizama ukuthi siludingide singene kulo size sithole iway forward.
Babukani.
Baba.
Okugcina nje ngiyacela.
Ngizokunikeza i-second khulube baba.
Uyazi ukuthi mhla kwakuzoqala lento imenyezelwa njengoba usigabade eshilo ukuthi it started way back obudi besasele emagoji. But uyakhumbula ukuthi uma sebezo lethula uhlelo lwabo lo kunamadoda athathwa ku Victoria ku Falls Road lapha ku Old Falls Road. Kunabelungu abathathwa ku Old Falls Road. So kwathiwa bathathwe yizigagayi zezibra. So unkomo wathi sithi akufonywe ikomiti elizobhekana nalento ukuthi kutholakala ukuthi labo bantu baswephe ngoba leyo ndawo leyo ungaya kuyo akunazi intaba ukuthi labo bantu babengafihlwe ezintabeni ezithile. Now into ebengicela mina ukuthi abantu labana bathathwa bona kodwa babethethwe nguhulumeni bathiwa bathathwe ngamaziko. Now uma silandela indlela abamhlophe abaphila ngayo abakaze bavuma umuntu wabo wathunjwa wayofela ezweni elithile kuthuliseke nje kuphela iphele indaba yakhona kanjani. Sibonile nje recently lapha eminyakeni nje eqeda kudlula bangena Ethiopia oSomalia laphayana la kwakukhona khona umkhulu nogogo ababethunjwe laba lezi gebengu lezi ezihijack imkhumbi. Kungena ama-Americana bayo ba rescue after some years. So bengifisa mina ukuthi ngabe kuyenzeka ngeke kulandelelwe laba bantu laba abayisithupha labo ukuthi ngempela laba bantu bafa yini noma is just imedia eyabangcwabayo labanabantu ukwenzela ukuthi kufezwe lokhu kungcola lokhu kombhuqazo.
Hayi no ngiyakuzwa baba ngiyakuzwa kakhulu ngibona ngimbono omuhle kakhulu asihlanganeni futhi kolunye uhlelo maybe singakwazi ukuthi futhi sidingide ngazo indaba ezifana nalezo. Okwamanje mbone ngathi isikhathi sesisala bakithi ngiyaxolisa kakhulu. Lumnando lona uhlelo. Kodwa hayi ngiyaxolisa ke asidibaneni futhi kuMatabeleland Broadcasting Corporation. Asibonge kakhulu kubantu abaparticipate-leyo. Baba Sibanda uma unawo ugcina ubaba uSibanda uKifone.
Hayi thina sikutshoyo ukuthi we need justice for ground genocide. We're not going back, we're not retreating. We're prepared to trade in the ultimate prize towards justice. We're not going to compromise. People need justice. We need justice for ground genocide. Siyabonga.
Hayi sibongile kakhulu bakithi. Hayi sekuhlwile. Asidibaneni futhi kwezinye izinhlelo zamaThuleni Broadcasting Corporation. Ovalelisayo nguThulani kaNkala.